everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Domestic Boyfriends podcast. My name is Dean, and always with me is my gorgeous co-host, Vincent.
Hello.
And today, we are going to be taking an adventure into space. Wow, that sounded really corny. We're going to be talking about Ultraman, but not any of the other 50 series of Ultraman. We're going to be talking about the Netflix Ultraman, but not the other Netflix Ultraman that is a complete retelling of the original Ultraman story. We're talking about Ultraman Rising, which is also a retelling of the Ultraman story in a way. But it's good. It's Netflix's newest original piece that is a retelling slash reimagining of the very, very, very late, or I don't want to say late, very early, very old Tokusatsu series Ultraman that started back like 1966, something like that. There's been many renditions of Ultraman. It's not Power Rangers, it's not Super Sentai, it's not Kamen Rider, it's the giant people fighting giant monsters. So it's been around for a very long time, rebooted a couple times, reimagined more than I can count. But this movie, which I originally thought was a series when we decided to do it, which I am very grateful, time-wise, that it was not, is the latest animated rendition. There's currently an Ultraman series going on in Japan, but it is live action. So,
Ooh.
yeah, well, all the Ultraman series are live action for the most part. Just people in suits fighting other people in suits. But as a fan of Ultraman, I know Vincent knows who Ultraman is because shout out Joppy the Hong. But I am a pretty big Ultraman fan. We have talked about Power Rangers and I have talked about Super Sentai on the pod before. There are a couple other shows in the Tokusatsu genre that's very mainstream, both over in the East and in the West. But Ultraman is one that I just have a lot of fun with. Unlike some series in Tokusatsu where I have critiques over small things, very, very little ever gets to me about Ultraman. Like, I like all the suits. Usually I like the stories. Usually I like everything that's happening. Subaraya Productions really knows how to cater to their audience and me specifically because although I've had many breaks, I've come back to Ultraman time and time again. I just watched episode 1 of the new series. I'm catching up on the one before that, and I have like 4 or 5 to catch up on in between where I left off. So I was excited to watch this. Getting started, Vincent.
Yeah.
You have to explain in a non-spoiler way what the movie was about.
Well, in a non-spoiler way, this movie, Ultraman Rising, follows the same plot and importance of Fast and Furious 9. It's about family.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Ultraman is currently non-spoiler.
I mean,
Ultraman, who is currently the person who is currently Ultraman is a up and coming baseball superstar who is new to filling in the Ultraman shoes, and he is currently trying to figure out what kind of person he truly wants to be, whether that is Baseball Man or Ultraman.
yeah.
And to figure that out and do a lot of personal growth. He has the help of an unlikely uh, adoptive daughter. That
Yeah, they did show Emmy in the trailer.
it's true.
His adoptive daughter that is a kaiju. Um, but yeah, that actually sums up most of it. Tag along a giant fights with monsters and evil organizations, and that's pretty much the entire Ultraman series, give or take. Reflavored in different ways and different storylines involving different characters. Um, it's lived the test of time, and this is just another way that it's been shown. Um, Character wise, who is your favorite character, Vincent?
Uh, I think it was Emmy.
Yeah. I guess we'll put the
I loved Emmy,
we'll
but
do
I also
our
really liked Ken.
yeah. I think I liked him more towards the end.
Hmm.
We'll do spoiler warning now. We'll do the quick review. How many times would you watch this movie again?
I'd happily give it another like 2 or 3 times.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say about the same. Now getting I guess like we can be spoilery. I definitely my favorite character would either have to be it would either be Emmy or I really liked the reporter. Um I forget her name. Who is the reporter? I want to say her name is Ami.
Ami?
Yes. I really liked her. I like in certain series. I like the people who kind of are pointing at like like they point out details and like the person that is Ultraman like always has to avoid them for the sake of their identity, which isn't always the case in some Ultraman's cases because their identity is just known. But Ken is obviously trying to keep his secret for whatever reason in his mind. So I enjoyed her character. She's a nice foil to Ken. Where I liked Ken was definitely when he interacted with her. I think a lot of his best points were interacting with his like either his dad or her, or Emmy. So all of his emotional foils, but yeah. Okay, forget regular characters. Who was your favorite kaiju besides Emmy? We had a couple.
We did have a couple kaiju.
We can look them up. It's okay.
I'm gonna have to because
So there's Gigantron, which is Emmy's mom.
yeah.
There's no way Gomer was in this movie. Was Gomer
There's
in this movie?
Blular, there's Naranga, Gigantron, and then Destroyer. I think I liked Gigantron the most.
Yeah. I do. I don't like the. I keep seeing this pink toy version of Gigantron. I definitely like Mecha Gigantron more. But that's just me. But so besides kaiju, I wanna I guess like blend the two in a little more. Do you the fighting scenes in this movie? I personally think were really good. With that, the animation was really nice. You had a lot of these scenes when he was transforming. Like we had like the instantaneous transformations, that he was doing, like when he was trying to get Emmy to like realize
To,
he is Ultraman.
yeah.
But my favorite part about Ultraman, much like with Power Rangers, is the transformation sequences. With Ultraman, it's a little bit less depending on how old they are. Like the older series, like usually it's a guy with a thing, and then the thing glows, and then boom, Ultraman, right?
Yeah, the beta capsule, right?
Yeah. But as like they've become more toy oriented, like there's like entire sequences of them interacting with shit. But I really enjoy the animations of showing him becoming Ultraman. His little rage-induced transformation was cool. But I definitely enjoyed the fights in the animation. How do you feel about the style? Like I feel like this is like a mix between 2D flat and like 3D.
This is like a more 3D version of the Spider-Verse kind of animation.
Yeah.
The same, like, especially with the color palette too.
They really worked their dark tones into this, like the
It
shadows and
was
everything.
I was really uncomfortable at the start of the movie just because of Ken's dad's like facial hair. I don't know why, but like his facial hair at the start of the movie just like scared me.
Uh huh.
But it's okay because he gets old really fast and then his facial hair is fine. But um, it like very much grew on me to the point where like I was pausing the movie repeatedly and like backtracking just to like rewatch or like analyze like explosions and other things like that
Yeah, they
more
had
and more.
impact frames. That was so cool.
Yeah, like especially um like some of the stuff with like Gigantron, like
Hmm.
the first time that Gigantron showed up, when like Ken was an adult and he was having to fight him.
Yeah.
Um, like that was like so cool. The like fire like encased falling out of the sky was gorgeous.
Yeah.
The movie's just very, very pretty.
Also, it's this like neo modern world because like the baseball's dome was made out of like a force field,
Yeah.
which I'm guessing has to do with the fact that like their global defense force is fighting kaiju, and they had like those tractor beam fields around the first kaiju. So it's interesting because it's very modern, but yet I feel like it's supposed to be like in the 2000s. But
Hmm.
like when Ken lives on an island, and he has a road that comes up to get him to mainland Japan. You know how fucking crazy that looked when I first saw it? Like when that scene happened, I was just like, man, this guy has money. Like he doesn't even have to be a baseball player. His dad just makes all the technology for him or whatever. That's like Batman levels of flex. Like whenever Batman like opens up a hole in a waterfall, and like boom, the Batwing comes out or something. Very, very simple story, even with spoilers. You know, Ultraman is and comparing it to the other stories in Tokusatsu. You know, you have Super Sentai and Power Rangers can get dark here and there. Super Sentai more because of the audience and the way that they show stories to children. But and Kamen Rider is definitely the more darker of the two. More it can get more mature. Like death is very common in Kamen Rider in comparison to the other two, but Ultraman's like the most lighthearted series out of the three, because it's usually always they do get into their deep and dark stories sometimes that draw more on like human emotions and human tragedies, but at the end it is so much just about like the good guys and the bad guys, or like darkness and light. Shout out Kingdom Hearts, because that is what they are. They are literally like the the origin of Ultramen are that they are a human-like species who evolved on this planet, named which is normally named just like the Land of Light, and the Land of Light has this light. I forget what it's called. It's called like the Nexus or something like that. That sits at the center of their city, and over time, the light irradiates them and gives them these superhuman abilities, and like it bathes them in this light and cosmic energy, and that's why they look like the way they do. Like, so, like Professor Sato, like the original Ultraman in the sense, takes a human form. Like he uses his powers and takes a human form. Ken, on the other hand, that's like his human form is more of his default state, right?
Yeah.
But his true form is technically that of him being Ultraman. Both are kind of his real forms, but like it's not the same as like other people in the Ultraman series who have been the host of an Ultraman. Like because the first series had Ultraman, which that was the name like they gave him, so it's like the name that stuck. He was a person who had taken a human form, but many after him were inhabitants of humans. So they would just hide in the human's body, and sometimes they'd be stronger or faster because they had an Ultraman inside of them. But then once they actually used their device to transform into the Ultraman would take over in a sense. So I forgot where I went with that point. My train of thought just derailed so hard. Wow. But yeah, it's a pretty movie. Yeah, the story. Oh, yeah. Pretty simple. People get beat up. The whole like professor working with the professor, or like the doctor, and then like him losing his family to kaiju and stuff like that. That is very modern Ultraman. Like people having personal vendettas against different situations. Especially Ultramen themselves is pretty modern. One of the most, not groundbreaking, but like he's kind of like a early 90s, early 2000s, late 90s Ultraman Mebius. They all have their names after the name Ultraman in the title. Mebius came to Earth because he was like, I'm gonna become a hero. Like that was his goal, right? He was sent off from the Land of Light to be a hero. And from there he went to Earth and tried to save them from a kaiju. But when he defeated the kaiju, the public like started screaming at him, because if you looked around, there was so much damage because he was so messy with how he defeated the kaiju that like they screamed him off the planet. And it was a moment where he thought, well, I want to save these people and they need my help, but I obviously need to understand them better. So similarly to how the first Ultraman was, Mebius decided to take a human form and live amongst humans for a while, and even became, much like the original Ultraman, became a member of like a kaiju / global defense team. So he could understand human emotions and like understand the actual procedures of defending a planet, and like do right to what he wronged, which is always cool to see. Because previously he thought that because people knew he was Ultraman that he'd get like the superhero treatment. But kind of like how damage control is in the Marvel comics, like they see you as a hero, like the Avengers go off and like they do the hero stuff, but like other people are left to deal with like the damages afterwards. So it's a cool thing that they talk about in a couple of the series. But even like Ken is just like the KDF can handle whatever's happening. And even the KDF like remarks like you're not a government authority, you need to get away. And and that happens a couple times in other Ultraman series, which I thought was neat. I know you won't understand references in this movie, but there are a lot of references.
Oh, I got at least one of them. I
What?
did quite like the Megazord that was chilling out in his house.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a lot of them to Tokusatsu in general, but there's a few that I tried to browse Reddit for, and I couldn't really find too many. There was a beta spark in his house, or in his dad's house, but seemingly they don't need. So here's the weird thing, right? Like Ultramen don't like when you see them on the in the land of light. Like I'll send you a picture. Um, when I mean that these people literally just look like this, I mean like here's a picture of an Ultraman who's like part of the garrison, which is like their defense force. These are all like kids in the academy.
Oh,
They don't come out looking human. They've mutated to the point where they come out looking like Ultraman. Um, Here, I'll show you. They actually do have kids. So this is Ultra Boy.
I hate that.
But usually they just have names. Like they don't call the first Ultraman. They call him Shodai or the first. Right? So they only ever call them Ultraman is like a title less than it is like an actual name anybody carries. Similar to how it is in the show. But they don't need. It seems like Ken and his dad don't need devices to transform, because usually Ultramen, when they try to inhabit like a human, they either have to have a device to help them inhabit a human body so they can transform back again, or they have something to channel their energy through to make them giant when they're in a human form. There were a couple references. The dad's glasses are actually they're references to the Ultra Eye, which I'll send you a picture of this, which is the transformation device for Ultra 7. But those are he literally had like this style of glasses. Someone said his bumper sticker had the number of the production studio who worked on the original Ultraman, or like
That's fun.
it's the date. Someone also said the car looked familiar to like the old 60s vehicles that used to be driven around. The uniform of the Defense Corps looks very similar to the uniform of a couple of the Ultraman series. The first thing that I thought of was, so if you look at this suit, this is from, you want to know what the name of these people's group is?
G-Force.
Guys.
What?
GUYS, guys. That uniform right there looks very similar to the uniform from Ultraman Rising, the KDF.
Yeah.
Which is like the first thing I thought of when I saw it, because this orange and red doesn't get used too much. There's another team called Guts. That
This movie really like to give people giraffe necks, and I'm kind of here for it.
Oh my gosh. Let's talk about the designs real quick, because have you seen the SH figure arts for Ultra Grandpa and Ultraman for Ultraman Rising?
No, I
They're
did
so
quite love the
lanky.
fact that Ultra Grandpa did have a mustache.
Yeah, I mean, you
Or
have to
in his
distinguish
helmet.
him. No, that's not okay. So that's okay. That's not a helmet.
Oh, sorry, his face.
So that's the thing. Like when Ken gets hurt, and like whenever this is their bodies, like
Right.
this is just them getting transformed.
That's why the sword actually just like went through him.
Yes, those are like it's pretty much like they're naked. That's their skin.
They're naked protecting the country? That's messed up. They're supposed to be good for kids.
But the if you look up the SH figure arts for Ultraman Rising, it looks very interesting. Uh, this is what they look like. I think my favorite
Yeah,
part
he looks great.
I think my favorite part about it is that no, my favorite one is the grandpa because my man got shrunken old man syndrome so bad.
Yeah, he did.
But my favorite part is Emmy is just like an accessory figure.
Oh, she
Probably the
is.
best part of all of it.
Oh, so good.
But there are Ultra women. There are male and female. They're not asexual. They reproduce by having children, but because they were like a human-esque race, they are like capable with breeding with humans, I believe. And like I guess like the only example I can think of right off the top of my head is Ken from this movie. But usually like Ultramen I guess like stay within their race. But they do have that capability because they can take a human form. There are a couple like there. One of them's a clone of another one, which is a thing. But yeah, they're that's how they all look. That's how they all are.
Interesting.
Yeah, Ultraman is a pretty. It's really interesting and fun. Also, I'd like to bring up Ultraman is very free to watch. If any of you listening are ever interested in actually watching Ultraman, Subaraya Productions has a YouTube channel that is free to watch. They have every modern series within the last I want to say 5 to 7 years on their channel to watch for free. They actually don't have any sort of streaming service. They do have like premium services to watch different other videos, but they actually premiere all of their new episodes of whatever Ultraman series is happening on YouTube for free. They do have Blu-ray box sets. They do find a way to make their money. But when it comes to watching Ultraman, it is very free. The series that kind of like rebooted / was the new generation of Ultraman was Ultraman Ginga, which was my first series. It was technically my second series into Ultraman, but was like the first one I really paid attention to. You can watch it. You can watch a lot of them on Tubi, but if you have Amazon Prime, the first 4 or 5 after Ginga, including himself, can be watched on Amazon Prime for rent or purchase. They all used to be on Crunchyroll, which is how I watched them. They all used to be on Netflix and Crunchyroll, but I think once they moved everything over to the Subaraya Productions YouTube channel, they made those older series less accessible. But if you want to dip your toes into Ultraman, there are a ton of jumping on points because it's an interconnected series, but each series itself is standalone. There's very few of them that reach back to older series. in ways that you can't just watch that one after you're watching the current one. So like a couple examples would be like, okay, so Ultraman G'd is a series about a Ultraman that has connections back to an evil Ultraman named Ultraman Belial. And Belial's been around since like, I don't know, 2010, right? So he's been around for like a long time. That show came out in like 2016. Ultraman Jude came out in like 2016 or something. So you would assume there'd be a lot of years of that you'd have to catch up on. But the series actually gives you in series explanation, so you don't have to watch the other stuff. But watching the older things that he's in gives you a lot of insight if you continue watching it. So it's not necessarily something you have to do. Also, a pretty modern series is Ultraman Taiga, who is actually the son of Ultraman Taro, who's the one that I sent you the picture of that's like walking with like the children. Like he has the cape on. He has a
Child
son.
soldiers.
Yeah, well, actually, yeah. There's actually over 1 million people that live in the Land of Light, and they all are trained. So Taiga is the son of Taro, but Taro was the sixth Ultraman to ever exist. So his series came out in like 1980. There are a couple modern, like 2000s movies that explain his origins again, and are stories about him. But you watch the series because either A, like you're old and you watched Taro before and you want the nostalgia of his son, or you watch it because it's a new show and you get the references to the older shows. You don't have to watch the old shows in order to understand anything in the show itself. There's a lot of callbacks. There's a lot of references. Ultraman crossover with other Ultramen in their shows. There's crossover movies. There's summer movies. There's big climax movies. They had like 5 Avenger level fucking movies before, where everybody just comes together and beats people's ass. It's very interconnected but very separate, kind of like how Super Sentai and Power Rangers are. Like they all exist in the same world most of the time. There are a couple that are separate. Like everything exists in its own universe except Ultraman, Taiga, Dyna, Trigger, and Decker. The first 2 live in their own universe. The second 2 live in their own separate universe, but they're also alternate dimensions of each other. So Taiga and Trigger are like, they're supposed to be. Trigger is supposed to be a modern retelling of Tiga, and Decker is supposed to be a modern retelling of Dyna, but they exist in separate universes that mirror each other, and they're separate beings. I know I feel like I just bombarded your brain with a bunch of information, but that is Ultraman. It can be very digestible when you watch it, and it's very enjoyable.
Prior to this movie, my exposure to Ultraman consisted of exclusively me having read the book Ready Player One, because it did not get brought into the movie. What was Ultraman's moment in Ready Player One was replaced by Gundam.
Yes, because he chose to
where at the end of the movie, spoilers, Ready Player One. But one of the twins who were at the top of the scoreboard fought off were fighting against like the main big bad guy who had control of the Mecha Godzilla mech.
Are they twins?
They're brothers. Sorry, they're not twins. They're older and younger brothers. That's why they're Daito and Shaito, or whatever. Daito and Kaito. Which are the names for the longer and shorter swords that are wielded by Japanese samurai.
Mm-hmm.
The younger brother is the name for the shorter sword. Um,
Hmm.
but I don't think they're actually even related. I don't know.
I was
I
I was always curious because one of them speaks Japanese and one of them speaks Chinese in the movie. So I was just curious on
Yeah.
like, are
Well,
they
like they met
related?
at the very least. They like met very early on while playing the game, and then just the older the older one was like,
You're
"I
my
am your
brother.
brother now," kind of personality.
He's like, okay,
Um,
that's fine.
but there's this really like engaging scene, and it's very sad during it, where like the younger brother's like, "No, you mustn't," because like they get like um the way that the mechs are acquired is like through the course of like the previous world's gate, and you have to like beat a video game, and then you get to select a mech that hasn't been grabbed yet, and they grabbed mechs that combine together to make a bigger mech. Um,
That's the only
and
way to live.
Parzival grabs Spider-Man's mech, which I really wanted to see in the movie, but no, we got the Iron
Wait,
Giant instead,
he
which I won't
got
complain.
he got fucking Leopardon.
Yeah, he got Leopard.
Oh,
It would have been sick. Um,
yo, that's
but
crazy.
one of the rare item drops that Daito and Sho got was a beta capsule. And you only had like a minute to be Ultraman. Otherwise, your character just immediately died because
So,
of like the power from it.
and in comparison to the movie, they got like they were originally like in the wastelands or whatever, and they were fighting for the gauntlet that lets you transform into any giant robot for a minute,
Yeah,
and then he just chose Gundam. He just chose
yeah.
the original RX. Okay.
Um, and so like he like the older brother like is like, stay back, I got this guy, and the younger brother's no, and he turns into Ultraman, starts kicking the crap out of them, and then of course the scene that is replicated in the movie where like the big bad guys
Stepping on him and stuff.
like they go into his house, break into his apartment, and then throw him out the window.
Wait, who?
The older brother,
He gets thrown out the
he
window?
gets thrown out the window and he dies.
So they're not all in a van?
The van does not exist at all. That
Oh,
is not a thing that happens.
that
They're
is
inside of the base, inside of the like basement of the house of James Halliday's like best friend, who uh in the movie is like has his secret character as like the like crypt keeper or whatever of
yeah.
like the history archives. Whereas how they meet him in the book is like Parzival's hanging out with H in like their own private chat room, and
Mm.
then the dude just like materializes inside of the tap room and is like, I've been here the whole time. Wanna come to my house? Um
Creepy ass.
so that you guys don't have to worry about people coming in and murdering you. Um
Oh my
and they're
gosh.
like,
So they
yeah, yeah,
actually
that sounds
just
like a great
killed
idea.
him
Yeah, yeah, no,
because he
dude.
was winning?
Yeah.
Wow, that takes like I will find your address on your IP like so serious.
Yeah.
So they literally tracked him because he was beating up Mechagodzilla as Ultraman.
Well,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh. That's
And
crazy.
so Parzival ends up getting the beta capsule and using it and like doing the like uh Kikoho thing. Um
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
That's
wild.
crazy. That I want to
Yeah.
see that in the movie.
I know, that's why I was so excited and kind of bummed at the end, but we did get the Iron Giant, so that's cool.
Oh my
Um
gosh.
I definitely would have taken like Ultraman fighting Mecha Godzilla over seeing Chucky in the movie. But
Oh my gosh.
you
Daito
need
was
to read the
brutally
book, man. The book's
Daito was
wild.
brutally murdered by suxors, and they threw when they threw him out of the window of his apartment. Although He was the first to get zeroed in the film. He does not die and survives. Oh, he didn't die.
In the book?
He does not. He does not die and survives to lead the Oasis along his friends.
Oh. I've never read the sequel. Maybe they cover that in the sequel. Or they
Holy
might have covered... It's also been a very long time since I
He-
actually read the book.
well,
But he does get thrown out of a window.
Well, he has like his own standalone book, I guess.
Oh,
It shows.
that's cool.
Oh, never mind. Never mind. Never mind. It was a poster.
I've been lied to.
But that's fucking crazy. That's like I love when books go like the fucking Animorphs route and fucking just off people.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
because like it's a sleazy scumbag corporation. Of course they don't care if they kill a kid.
Like, I can fully cover, like, Ready Player One, like, the differences between the book and the movie, or, like, other
Oh,
things like that
man.
in a whole episode. But, like, there's some, like, major crazy differences. Like, the whole, like, resistance thing that Artemis does, that's not a thing at all. She's just a girl that's in Canada. Like...
Interesting. But Ultraman.
Yeah, Ultraman. Fucking cool.
Um,
I love the father-son Kamehameha thing at the end. That was
Yeah.
so cool. I
So-
was, like, geeking out.
So every Ultraman has a signature move, and it's usually a beam. So they all have names to them. The original, what was it? The original Ultramans, they also shout their moves, much like fighting game characters. I'm pretty sure it's the Spacium beam.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, I think that's right. But they all have their own names to their own ones, and they usually like are something close to their name. Like like Ultraman Victory has the Victorium beam. Ultraman Z has the Zestium beam, stuff like that. There's a lot of them, but they all have like signature moves and usually like something special that they can do that other ones can't do. Like for example, Taro, the guy that I showed you before with the horns, he can like channel energy through his ultra horns, and cause attacks and stuff. Other Ultramen like I guess like Ultraman Victory is a good example. He's like he's the first Ultraman that can use the powers of kaiju as like his own. So like oh man, this could be its own tangent. Ultraman Victory uses these things called spark dolls that are like these. They're pretty much like the little toy versions of kaiju. But in the previous series were like a whole big thing because like they had sentience and they were just like they were pretty much like the creature or the person as a toy. But what he can do is when he defeats one, he can like keep them as like a collectible item. And when he uses it on the device that he uses to transform, he can gain appendages of kaiju and uses them in
Bro,
a
he's
fight.
just Generator Rex.
It's actually really cool. He's probably, I don't want to say he's like my favorite, but I really love his design and his ability is pretty dope. Like he can kind of just take their shit and use it for himself. And like it's not even to like
That's so cool.
it's not even to like the extent of like the organic kaiju. If you look at the one that I just sent you, in the top left-hand corner, that's just a gun.
The bottom middle one reminds me of Megatron from Beast Wars and his T-Rex arm.
His little claw.
Give him his little rubber ducky.
But they but yeah, that's his ability, which is cool. And then there's like other ones that do things. The more modern ones have cool abilities because they're trying to sell toys. But like even the older ones, like Ultraman Jack is like really good at like he has this he
Like
fights
Samurai Jack,
no he
but
like
being Ultraman.
Kind of, actually.
Ooh.
So Ultraman Jack kind of just looks like Ultraman. A lot of the early ones just kind of look like Ultraman, but with smaller design changes. But that staff that he has is like a blade, and he beats people's ass with it. He's also really good at karate. But then there's like other ones that are just like, oh man, I want to show you this guy. Okay, so you see how all of them look, right?
Uh-huh.
They're all like skinny guys and shit.
Yeah.
Like they're all like modern, except like Ultra Grandpa, because like he's like normal. He's like he looks the same, but he's old. He's just old man, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is Titus.
He's doing the muscle pose.
This is Titus.
He's doing the Saito Chesto.
This is Titus. He is amazing. He's muscular. He has good catchphrases. The gods may forgive you, but my ultra muscles will not. He is Johannes? Yeah. He's pretty awesome. So
Ultra muscles will not.
So I want to talk about since we're on the topic, and it kind of relates to what people were asking when the movie came out. So it was explained. So you saw the post-credit scene, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Nebula M78 is Nebula M78. That doesn't sound right. Nebula M78. Yeah, Nebula M78 is the nebula in which the Ultraman's home, the Land of Light, resides. Right.
Interesting.
That is where his mom apparently is in the end of the movie. That's the post credits, right? A lot of people asked, well, like what's the significance of the color timer? Like, what does all of that mean? Because in the movie, it's explained the color timer is when he is under great distress. He'll eventually revert back to his human form, right?
Yeah.
That's not totally wrong in comparison to the other Ultraman. It's usually like an exhaustion timer. It's like Ben 10's timer. Like when he gets the fucking timeout.
It's literally like an immense amount of energy to be able to stay in there.
But let it not be. It kind of makes sense that they say like if he's not in the right mind, he can't stay the same, because he does have a physical form to change back into. Other Ultramen, when they're by themselves, when they don't have a host or when they don't have like a human form, they usually just rest, right? They just are big and they just sit down, right? Because it's usually exhaustion or like they have to get their mental state right. A lot of people asked about the color timer, and he said that's not significant. And then people asked where he's from, and they said Professor Sato is from the Land of Light, right? Now, Ultraman takes place in this multiverse, like I explained earlier. So there's the main universe where Nebula M78 exists, right? Mm-hmm. And there are branch universes within all of them, or there are universes within this story, right? So each Ultraman may not come from the same universe as the other one, but the way that multiverse theory works in this case is within each universe there's an Earth. There are people. There are mostly Japanese people, but there is a Earth with a Japan, with an America. They all exist, right? Mm-hmm. So each universe is like not a mirror of itself, but Earth exists. I guess they technically are like a mirror of themselves, where like an Ultraman can go from one universe to the other and go to different Earths, right? When Earthlings meet each other in Ultraman, they usually don't care. They're just like, oh, you're from another Earth. Like, that's normal. So that's one thing. But then they have different dimensions, which the different dimensions are, like I explained, are where for like Tiga and Trigger are. They don't have the Land of Light. They have completely different origin stories. Okay? So most Ultramen come from the Land of Light. They're born there. They get their abilities because of the mutation to like the light from the Land of Light. And that's usually how they are. They're just a kid of another Ultraman. There are some that are different. So I guess the perfect one to talk about is our muscle boy here, Ultraman Titus. So there's three normal ways you can get, or three known ways you can get powers. You're born in the Land of Light, or you are a warrior sage from planet U40. So in planet U40, you can like be chosen to become an Ultraman or something like that. You're like chosen by the sages and you become a warrior for the planet.
Mm-hmm.
The second way is, so there's another Ultraman, Ultraman Johannes. He's American, by the way. There's canonically three American Ultramen. Ultraman Johannes is also from planet U40. The significant identifier is that both of them have stars on their head. Titus also has a star color timer, but that's just because he's muscly and unique. But the star on their forehead is a dead giveaway that they are from the same planet. There is another place that you can get it, and that is from planet O-50, which is where there's like this giant sentient ring of light that gives people that they think is worthy Ultraman powers. There's two Ultramen that we know that have been granted this. Ultraman Fuma, who is kind of like a ninja guy. I want to show you a picture of him. This is Fuma. Fuma and Titus have the same host. They also share the host with Taro's son, but and then Ultraman Orb also was picked by the light to become an Ultraman, like Fuma himself. They share a very similar head shape, which is about the only thing that they share. They have very long heads, very long pointy heads. Yeah. So, people were asking about who, like, the canonical, in like the canonical existence of this series and everything. The director doesn't want to explain anything. He says that explaining it lessens the magic, which I understand. But I do think it's cool that they have been referencing a lot of these things for like in the movie itself. His mom existing on M78 makes sense. Humans have been there before, but like the original inhabitants, if they stay too long, there might be they might mutate and become an Ultraman. They could also die, so it's interesting on how it could be if they do decide to make this a series or like another movie with the story that they introduced in Ultraman Rising. But yeah, it's little interesting things here and there.
That's fun.
Yeah, Ultraman as a series is very, very living, very alive, and very active with things that are happening. It reminds me of an open world video game because whenever series are happening, people are always doing stuff. Like whenever like a series ends, and like you see that that person's like left Earth or they're off doing something else in
Mhm.
the future, like in the next series or something like that, or in like a future movie or series or stuff, you see that they're doing stuff. Like you hear that someone's off doing something, like fighting a battle or helping aliens escape like a empire or something like that, or like oh like
Okay.
Ultraman Orb is out there defending this planet from this alien species, or like you hear about other stuff. Like there's always something happening. Like it's a living world that I feel like doesn't really get replicated in TV shows sometimes. You usually see it in like books or manga and stuff.
Mhm.
That I think it does really well. Like you can see like in a lot of crossover episodes in Ultraman, like 90% of the time the person is on the other person's planet because like they just happen to be there. Like they're following in an alien and the alien lands on this Earth and they're just like, "Well shit. I'm back on Earth." Huh. Who would have thought? And then they find the other Ultraman and they're just like, "Hey, you're like me." And then sometimes they're like, "Oh no, no, I'm not," because they're trying to hide their identity. It really depends on
Yeah.
like the organization, because sometimes Ultramen like they know, like the organization fully knows and stuff like that, and usually by the end of the series, everybody knows who the Ultraman is and the secret's out the bag. But sometimes they don't. So
Are there villains for the Ultraman series that aren't like the kaiju?
so
Because
there's
like this movie didn't really have a villain per se.
it
There was
was
just
just
a
the
guy who
people.
wanted to
Yeah.
kill the kaiju.
So there's
I
sometimes
really liked the like quote unquote villain for this movie too. By the
yeah.
way, we haven't really touched on him, but like his only motivation was the fact that like he wanted to keep other people safe because his family was killed by monsters, so he just wanted to
Yes.
get rid of them.
Yeah. So there. So to touch on like the main, who, what was his name?
His name was Dr. Onda.
So Doctor Onda is, ooh, sorry. Doctor Onda is a type of character we've seen in Ultraman before. Very similar to where people like they actually touch on the darker parts of like my family was lost to kaiju, because he doesn't hate Ultraman. He hates that Ultraman's in his way, right?
Hmm.
So he wants to just get rid of kaiju's and kill Kaiju Island and stuff like that. So when it comes to other Ultraman villains, there's Ultraman Belial, who was originally an Ultraman, thus his name, but he tried to get the plasma spark, and the plasma spark is that light that I was talking about that gives them. So it's an artificial sun that sits in the center of the land of light, and it keeps them alive. But the sun's radiation makes them Ultraman.
Interesting.
Yes. So he tried to steal it, but he didn't like do this on his own. So he's what so he was a normal alien and everything, but he was corrupted. So Belial wanted the power before he got corrupted, right? Because he wanted the
Hmm.
power to he wanted to have that power so he could save everybody. He originally was exiled from it and was encountered by the alien Ray Blood. The Ray Blood species are like they're their own fucking thing.
Yeah.
Ray Blood are a species of aliens that can control kaiju. Like they just do it. That's a part of their genetics. So Ray Blood, alien Ray Blood, possessed Belial and made him who he is today. He made him the villain that he is. But besides the occasional, I'm gonna show you Ultraman Belial. Belial's pretty cool looking. And yes, he does always have those big claws. That's just a part of his design.
He looks evil. He looks like a Kingdom Hearts Heartless.
Yeah, right. And that's him before he became evil.
You could tell he was going to be evil. Look at how jagged his Ultraman lines are. His Ultra lines.
But beside Belial is a pretty repeated. He's like the main villain for like Ultraman Zero, Ultraman Geed, and a couple other ones. There besides like alien races, and kaiju. Are you more or less asking if like have people ever been the antagonists?
Yeah.
On occasion, but they're usually not like the big bads. I could be wrong, but I don't. In recent years, I don't think there are. Now there are people that have used Ultraman in bad ways. There's Ultraman Orb Dark, which was a guy that was obsessed with Orb and got a part of like he didn't really get his powers. He kind of like he got a mimicked version of Ultraman Orb's powers, and he kind of just has like a darker palette, and he beat up the protagonists of the series for a while. But he wasn't innately evil.
Okay.
There are a couple antagonistic people. Like I'm watching Ultraman Blazer right now. His design's based off of the horizon of a black hole. But
Unlike Ultra Lord,
yeah,
who is a reference to Ultraman. Okay.
but like they're besides like there's very few of them. They're usually just like kaiju or aliens. But like I said, in Blazer, there is like a force that is going against the kaiju defense force that they're facing right now. But it's more of a I'm trying to hide my dirty secrets, not and like stopping you is just a part of it.
Yeah.
There are, like I said, there are humans who have used Ultraman powers or have similar powers. Like in Ultraman Tiga, there's the Dark Giants, which in Ultraman Tiga there is no Land of Light. There are just like kaijus and such and evil people. And the Dark Giants fight against Tiga, but like I guess you'd say they're like Ultraman-esque. There are robots that fight them. Yeah, it's mostly them. There's stuff from the future. There is an alien in Ultraman Z that inhabits. It's like the first episode. There's an alien parasite that inhabits a human. That completely takes over his mind, and he uses that human's position in pretty much he uses that human's position in like the equivalent of like the damage control thing, like the clean up kaiju, to get kaiju parts to make more kaiju. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's very few humans that are antagonists to Ultraman. I think it has to do with like maybe a power scaling thing. Because whenever robots show up that aren't alien created robots, like whenever a Earth based defense force goes and fights a kaiju, it usually doesn't turn out well for them. And usually, when kaiju from aliens attack Ultraman, they're formidable foes. So, yeah, I wouldn't really say there's not too much variation when it comes to their antagonists. There are awesome kaiju designs though, but no, humans aren't the biggest threat to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Do you have any
I
Ultraman questions you want to ask me?
did you recognize the voice actor for the main villain in this movie? I geeked out
uh,
when I heard his voice. I knew who he was immediately.
wait. Of Dr. Ando?
Yeah,
In English or
in
Japanese?
English. Yeah, I
No,
watched it in English.
I
You
watched.
might not have.
I know I did watch it in English.
Oh, you did
Who
watch it in English? Okay.
who are you?
You
Wait,
you know him.
let me listen to a clip real quick.
While you're listening to that, another fun fact for people who like may or may not know, have seen this movie, whatever. Um, Old Man Ultraman in this movie is voiced by the same guy who voices Ling from Mulan, the skinny guy who sings the song "A Girl Worth Fighting For," which is endlessly funny to
The audience is about to hear from the movie.
me.
Uh,
This is a very well-known voice actor. Well-known actor too.
Scramble all jets. Kill Gigantron.
oh my gosh, who is this? Oh, I never knew. Okay, so do you want to know how I know him?
Yes.
Kyung Young is because he played the evil headmaster in Halloween Town High.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Yeah, he has he's all these Asian people. Um, but yeah, he is. Wow, I never knew his repertoire.
That's Psychotech from Teen Titans Trouble in Tokyo.
Yeah. Yeah, I just passed him up.
As well as my favorite character, Dancer from Phineas and Ferb.
He's also the
Um,
chef and Daiso from Trouble in Tokyo.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he's Zhang from The Last Airbender.
Mm-hmm.
He's all of these
He's Long Lao
characters
Shi
Hi
from
Puffy
Jake Long.
Only.
Like, this guy's a very, very well-known voice actor. He even voiced in Super Robot Monkey Team Hyperforce Go, which is a show that people still don't believe me exists.
Oh, I just threw away the DVD for it when I was cleaning up my dad's house.
What? That's
He's
so
Julie's dad in Ben 10.
Uh-huh. He's Ishiyama from Ben 10. He's Sumo Slammer.
What? Yo, that's amazing. He is Super Slam. He is Sumo Slammer.
He is he's number 3's dad in Codename Kids Next Door.
He's Silver Samurai. He's fucking whatchamacallit. He's Mr.
He's Storm
Banner.
Shadow from G.I. Joe.
He's Joe Hayabusa from Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah. No, this guy's done his work. He's Jun Sato from Star Wars Rebels.
Kojiro Sasaki from fucking Record of Rag. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, he is definitely. Yeah, it's weird that I know him. I don't know
He's
him.
guard number 1 from Wish.
I don't know him for a lot of his like video game and like animated stuff. I know him as fucking. I know him as the professor from Thing. It's funny. Do you have any other Ultraman questions for me? What would you like to know about the series?
What would you recommend for my next thing to watch as an Ultraman noob?
So, this is what I recommend for anybody. Okay, so there's currently Ultraman Arc that is coming out. Like I said, modern series and Ultraman the last 5 to 6 years have been free on the Subaraya YouTube channel.
Yes.
In both English and Japanese. They do have a dubbing team now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so there's English captions. They have captions in English and Japanese. So I think Arc. I don't think Arc relates back to anything. Arc is very friendly so far. Had a great episode 1. It's currently ongoing. Episode 2 is to be released this upcoming Sunday. Japanese television is Saturday to Saturday, so for America it would be Sunday to Sunday. As a jumping on point, so you have more content. I see. It's so hard for me to recommend Ultraman Ginga because Ginga feels like a early 2000s show. Like the jump from Ginga is one of the few Ultraman series that has 2 seasons to it. It has Ultraman Ginga and Ultraman Ginga S. The quality of production from Ginga to Ginga S makes you think that you're watching a completely different series because you can tell the 90s production studio had to get new equipment between the seasons. Because I think it was a year in between. It was a year in between airings. Ultraman Ginga is cool. It has some light-hearted moments. It's also a good way for you to start knowing Ultraman because, I guess like a slight spoiler would be that other Ultramen do show up in that series in different forms. The series itself isn't too serious. So it's cool. It's just the 16 episodes are hard to get through sometimes. A very small set list, so you don't like you're seeing the same areas and backgrounds a lot. But Ginga S is amazing. Like I love Ginga S because if you bear through Ginga, seeing the main character in a different season interacting with new people and old characters coming back gives you that nostalgia hit with a series that you just started. Ultraman X, which is the one after Ginga S, is an anniversary series. That's an okay jumping on point, but it also has episodes that correlate to specials from Ginga and Ginga S. So like that's kind of a hard recommend.
How was the Ultraman show? The original show for Netflix.
Oh, how does it stand up?
Yeah.
Oh, are you talking about
the 2019 through the 2023 one, the CGI one?
Oh, completely different story. Or at least
it good?
It's cool. It's a different spin on it. Like their powers, it's more like they're mutant aliens and they're wearing suits instead of them turning into giants.
Okay.
It definitely is it's different. It's definitely different than what Ultraman is, though. I think the heart's there, but it's definitely different when it comes to the actual premise.
This has just made me really want to actually give SSS Gridman an actual shot.
Which is also a Subaraya production thing. It's a product of Subaraya production. It's one of the only things besides Ultraman that they constantly work on.
It's like I tried watching that series and I gave up on it pretty early on, but that was also like, a different me.
Okay, Ultraman Mebius is cool to jump on. It's from like 2005. Does feel like that old production, but it does have serious moments, like I stated earlier. But I guess with modern ones, a good standalone one that you don't necessarily need a lot of information for. Ultraman Orb has reference. Ultraman Orb was my first one because I saw it on Crunchyroll and I was like, "This is fucking cool looking." It has a lot of references, but it's very standalone. It also has a movie and its own prequel series to explain how that guy, named Guy, his name's Guy, how Guy got his powers of being an Ultraman, because he wasn't from the Land of Light. He was from he's actually an alien himself, and he got his powers from planet U40, and traveled along in his story and everything. That's a pretty decent jumping on point. I'm currently watching Ultraman Blazer, which seems, with the 13 or 14 episodes that I've been watching, has zero connection to any other Ultraman and is a pretty good standalone series. It also has some Japanese show humor, which I like. Like I really like the people in this compared to like when the action happens. It doesn't like I'm not waiting for action to happen in comparison to other shows. Like
Yeah.
I'm cool because Blazer, without giving away too much, in every other Ultraman series, the Ultraman is usually like a cadet or a soldier or like he's in the lower ranks of the defense force of whatever his planet's defense force is. So like in Ultraman Mabius, which they don't just call him Mabius. He has like a Japanese name that he takes. He's a new recruit for guys. The cool thing about Blazer is the host of the Ultraman in that series. He's a captain. He's a well decorated captain. So he has a kid. He has a wife. So like as opposed to like these young people that are usually within. So Ultraman Ginga starts off what is called the New Generation, and him onward are called the New Generation Ultraman. Mostly as like a marketing ploy to like show kids like these are the new guys, like to be like cool and hip. But Blazer is like the first new gen Ultraman that is like older than 20. So like it's cool as an adult to see like an adult being an Ultraman type of thing. Instead of like a kid or someone younger. So it has those different tones in it. Let me look at. Let me just look at all of the Ultraman 2. Yeah, I mean, the ones that I gave you are pretty good. You can go forward and back as much as you want. I definitely would just not like. There's certain ones that I wouldn't touch until you're more versed in Ultraman. Like Taiga is like a successor show because he's the son of Taro. Jeed has to do a lot with Belial, so I'd watch all of the stuff with Ultraman Zero before you watch that. I guess technically, actually a really good one would kind of be Ultraman Tiga. It's a 1996 show. Tiga was a reimagining and refresh of the show that kind of hallmarked a lot of modern tropes within Ultraman and modern storytellings. But if you want to watch the modern version of that, you can just watch Ultraman Trigger, which is just the same story but modern. So I guess that wouldn't be too bad. If you start out with Ultraman Trigger, I recommend that you move on to Ultraman Decker, because they're both retellings of Tiga and Dyna in ways. Or if you just want to keep up with the modern ones and go with Arc, like I said, I'm watching Blazer. Blazer's pretty good so far. It's hard to recommend certain jumping on points because I don't want you to be like, oh, who's this guy? And then like you have to watch a whole series. But yeah, you could. A lot of the older ones aren't that bad. Like if you watch Ultra Q or Ultraman, they're not bad. Mabius is probably the oldest one that I would say to watch. It's from 2006.
Okay.
Or a Tiga. The ones from 96 to like 2007 are all bangers. I just think it's good to have context before you watch those. Like,
For sure.
Get more exposure. There's a lot of crossover movies too, so.
Like you said, there are like Avengers level things. So
Yeah, well, there's like this. They're currently fighting this like group called Tartarus, which are just a bunch of aliens who are like grouping together to defeat the Ultramen for various reasons, and like they've had a couple encounters for them, and those are like 2-hour length movies, on their own. So yeah, there's a lot of Ultraman content. I think Ultraman Rising is a great way for people to get their leg in the door. when it comes to the content because it is very consumable in the art form of this in this art form. That if they want to transition to the live action, it isn't the worst
Here's
to
one more
understand the
Emmy.
premise.
Emmy was so much cuter than I ever thought she was going to be.
I am sorry, Emmy is not in anything else.
I know. It's
But
okay. She'll be in the next one,
there's
right?
actually Emmy's probably the closest thing to so Ultraman Taro has capsule kaijus, which are like but they're Pokemon.
Whoa.
So he has kaiju that he like raised and like they're loyal to him and he keeps them in capsules and he kind of just throws them out when he doesn't want to fight. So I mean like
They're Pokemon.
those are like the closest things to Emmy in a way. There are a couple movies that star like the Ray Bloods or like the show. So like Alien Ray Blood, like his kids and like his species are all over the world, like the universe. There's actually a human that's like a Ray Blood descendant, and he has like an entire movie about himself and him like defending people in kaiju by using his own kaiju like a Pokemon master. Not too much about Ultraman, but he is the main character. Like he doesn't turn into an Ultraman. So it'd be like watching a movie about a policeman when there's Power Rangers.
Interesting.
But yeah. I think this movie was great for what it was. I definitely think it's a good way for people to understand Ultraman because the animated series, I do recommend that people watch it. It's the original animated Netflix series is just so different from what Ultraman is in different ways. So it's not bad. It's just like, oh, I really like this. I'm gonna watch this, and all of a sudden, like, it's like watching. It's like you're like, oh, I like Death Note, so I'm gonna watch the Netflix adaptation. And you're like, oh, this isn't Death Note. Or if you're like, I really liked watching Paula Deen or Bobby Flay or someone on the Food Network cook this meal, or I really like the British baking show, but now I'm gonna go watch Hell's Kitchen. Very different, very similar, very different. But yeah, I've talked so much during this. I'd like to know your last opinions on everything.
I thought everything about this was super fun, super awesome. I went into this not necessarily expecting the most. I was expecting to have a really fun time because I'm a huge like kaiju fan. I'm a Godzilla nerd. I love mechs. I love alien stuff. I didn't really like. I kind of understood that Ultraman was just kind of like an alien and not a mech, but at the same time, like, wow, I didn't really know what to expect, and I came out of it with an experience that was. I'm sure if I was an Ultraman fan before watching this, I would have come away with this with as big of an experience as watching Into the Spider-Verse. Because this just maybe not as big, but like this gave me the same vibes that like Into the Spider-Verse gave me the first time I watched it. Maybe that's just because the art style is just like so darn like close, or at least like very very like similar feeling to it. But all of the comedy was there. I didn't hate a single character. Everything felt. All of the emotions felt real. The acting was amazing. And God, that movie was beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, as an Ultraman fan, I wasn't disappointed in this. It was another retelling. So
Yeah.
it's similar. It's kind of like how like we watch a bunch of Godzilla movies that are just like starting back from like point A, where it's just like, oh, it was awesome. It was just another retelling. So I wasn't disappointed in any way. I really liked it. It was an enjoyable 2 hours. So yeah,
It didn't feel like 2 hours while watching it.
No, a lot of it went by super fast, especially
Yeah.
when you started getting towards the end.
It geared up really well. All the pacing was really good. It didn't like overstay its welcome at all. If anything, I would have liked it to potentially have been a little bit longer, but that's it was a perfectly fine movie to end where it did, and that just means that I'm just left wanting for a sequel,
Yeah,
which is a good feeling.
yeah. I mean, it's also very grounded. Like a lot of Ultraman shows stay within the grounded part of Earth, like, and not too much in space. But then you have the whole fantastical part of it being in space if you want it to be. So definitely something they can play with in the sequel if they do something like that, or if they even want to do a sequel. Honestly,
They better. I don't. One of my least favorite things is when like a movie like sets up for like a
a
sequel
banger
and then
comes out.
never has anything.
When a banger comes out and then nothing happens. Yeah. But those are all of my opinions. Do you have anything else before we end it off?
I've got nothing else.
Okay, cool. Thank you guys for listening. We appreciate everybody who tunes into the podcast. If you would like to get in contact with us, you always can at our Twitter handles. I am at lying_mask.
I am Vincent Barlow.
And you can get a hold of either of us at Domestic BF Pod. Shout out to Ultraman Maverick X for all of our art. Thank you guys for everything. Catch you next time.
Stay beautiful, everyone.